Hey folks, it's Farmer Marshall. It's time for my first December fall garden tour. So let's check it out. I got a whole bunch to show you. Now I know the last time I showed off most of my garden, I was going for my spring summer garden and changing it into my fall winter garden. So these are, if you don't know, which I'm sure you do, these are a bunch of my collard green plants. They're growing well. They're starting to form the ball up in there, which is going to give me plenty of food. And most of them look pretty doggone good. One thing I love about a fall garden, I don't have to worry as much about pests and weeds, even though I do have some weeds here. I literally haven't cleared out weeds in about 8 weeks. So this isn't any real big deal for me. I have about, probably about 14 plants. All of them are looking good, and they grew really well. Only one that seemed to have had a problem was this one here. Have a little bit of a bug issue on this one. Something's been eating on it, but I'm gonna have to search that guy out because this still could be a very productive plant. And the ball is still forming, so I gotta look for bugs, worms, whatever. Of course, we did have freezing temperatures the other day, so hopefully that will kill off any bugs in the garden on these plants. Like I said, they did grow very well. When I planted these, I used 2 types of fertilizer. I used cow manure because these plants will eat fairly heavily, but the cow manure is a slow release fertilizer, so as I was planting these things, I poured fish fertilizer directly onto the root ball of the plants as I was planting them. So they get 2 hits of fertilizer, and I think that's one reason why they've grown so well. Next up, I think this is just a spare collard green I had. We'll get to the rest of those. I have cauliflower here. They're closing up towards the center here. Can't really see anything in there yet, but soon enough. Now this one here had a little bit of damage from some bugs, but like I said, it's not too bad. The center's still coming out. I think we should be okay with that one. I have about 12 cauliflower. I absolutely love cauliflower, along with cabbage. Now my next row, my broccoli. And some of these have already started to show off their little broccoli heads. Little one's here, little one's here. Tiny little one there. But the plants look really healthy. I don't see any of them have damage from bugs. And I did the same thing with these as far as the way I fertilize them. I think it's very important to get a good amount of fertilizer on them initially, because they do need to grow quickly as far as I'm concerned. Over here we have my collard greens. Some of them. I have about, I don't know, maybe 14, 15 of them. They're still looking pretty good. I don't see any of these that had any real problems with bugs, so that's always a good thing. And next over here I have more broccoli. Can you tell I love some broccoli? These guys here. Look at that one. That one's coming along well. I think that's one I featured in a short about a week ago. So it's growing well. And one thing I have been doing with a lot of my plants, especially like my collard greens, that's a decent sized ball there. Nowhere near ready yet, but I'm happy they're doing well. And I'm happy they didn't get frozen out by that frost or that freezing weather we had the other day. It got down to 27 degrees the other night. I raced out here and you can see my covering and some more covering back there. I didn't realize it until it was late at night, and I was like, hey, I need to get this done. It's probably about 39 degrees when I came out that night. It's probably about 9 o'clock at night, and I raced to cover everything. I covered everything out here and also everything that's in my greenhouse. Now over here I got, right next to the broccoli, another row of cabbage. I absolutely, as I mentioned before, absolutely love cabbage. I have another 12 here. I'll just toss that one over there. Next to, now this row I have a mixture of cabbage, I have collard greens. These collard greens here are smaller because I planted them later than some of my other plants. Along with this one here, they're small, but they're doing fine. I planted these weeks after I planted my initial plants because I thought that I was going to be able to find some other items put in the garden, but I wasn't lucky. So I just grabbed what I can get. Plenty of collard greens back here. And this is something I haven't done in a while. Brussels sprouts. My first 1 or 2 years I tried to grow Brussels sprouts. They actually did pretty well. But after that, the next 2 or 3 times I really had no luck at all. They have to have a higher amount of cold weather or frost weather or whatever I forgot the exact term they use. But they need a certain amount of, I guess you'd call, cold hours to produce the Brussels sprouts. So right now the plants look good. And they were pretty tiny when I first planted them. And here's my spinach. Still fairly small, but depending on what I'm eating, I can toss some of these leaves up in there. I'm not going to, here's another good one. I'm not going to pull them up when it's time to harvest them. My thing with my spinach, along with my collard greens, I use collard greens here, there. With my collard greens, I always use the cut and come again method of harvesting. Meaning, I'm going to come along here and cut a lot of the big leaves. Let me see if we can get it broader view. There we go. I'm gonna cut off a lot of the larger leaves, and I'll leave some leaves in the middle. Of course, I'm not really ready to harvest these. I like for mine to get really thick and full before I start harvesting. But if I cut probably about 60-70% of these leaves off, I can get myself a nice meal for my family out of these, and I can just leave them here and come back weeks later as they continue to grow and harvest again. And after that, maybe weeks later, I'll harvest a third time. You never know. It depends on how well they grow. And these plants, I'm definitely adding more fish fertilizer every 2 or 3 weeks to encourage them to grow. So that's one item I use, the cut and come again method of harvesting. Also, like I mentioned, I'll use that same method with my spinach. It's a great way to get more production out of your vegetable garden without having to add more vegetables. So, but things are looking good out here. I'm very happy about it. As I mentioned, one thing I really love about having a fall garden is there's not a lot of weed pressure out there. Also, the pressure as far as bugs is minimal. So that doesn't mean there's not work to do. Obviously, I have to fertilize them. And also, when I get these bad leaves, I'm going to pull them off. These can go into your compost bin, or if you want to direct compost, you could toss them into the garden. But I prefer to put them in the compost bin because I can do some hot composting, which will kill off any disease in case these leaves came off because of disease. Last thing you want to do is feed your plants disease leaves. So yeah, all of these will go into the compost bin, and there's more. It's not a bunch, but best will get them while I can before I have so might as well get these while I can before I head over to the greenhouse. Yeah, gotta check out the greenhouse. That frost scared me a lot because I have 2 Meyer lemon trees. I have a key lime tree. And they're fairly young. Just got them this year. I have a bunch of blackberry bushes. I have a mulberry bush. Well, let me go and show you what I have. That frost really had me scared. So I mentioned some of the things they have in my greenhouse. This is my miniature or dwarf Honeycrisp apple tree. It's doing well, but I had hoped that it had gotten larger this spring, summer. But it's healthy. It's providing me with an offshoot here. And I don't necessarily see where this, I don't necessarily see where this was grafted. So if it wasn't, this here, I'm taking this part off. I'm going to grow me another tree. Or I may just take a bunch of cuttings and sell or give a few away to people I know. Now the reason I was disappointed in the size of that one, even though it's doing well, is because this Asian pear tree was the same size as my Honeycrisp apple tree. It's grown probably about 4 or 5 feet larger than that one. And it's looking good, really good. So this is a brand new plum. You pronounce it, I'm not going to. Regular price $30.98. Lowe's had these on sales for $23.99. So don't believe all the hype about fruit trees getting sky high. I think certain trees are sky high, but there's still some good deals out there. This is just something I wrapped around the roots because of the hard frost we had the other day. And you can see some of the materials I used to cover some other things. Old t-shirts. Snow peas are doing well. No harm, no foul. These guys here, a disappointment. I had a hard time finding lettuce. Well, I saw lettuce earlier in the year, earlier in the fall, and I didn't get it. I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna keep it real. I planted some seeds and they just didn't do well at all. So I don't know if it was me or the old seeds. I have no idea. I think it was probably a combination of the two. So I bought these guys here, and the stems were so long that, well, maybe I'll kind of add into a video. But they just don't, they aren't dying. They just don't look well. These are romaine lettuce leaves. The leaves should be a lot bigger. So it is what it is. I just have to get better at growing those from seed. Here's some extra items I had for when I planted out in the main garden. I decided to try a few things in pots and the greenhouse. And these guys here look, pretty decent. It's collard greens, I think. Yeah, they're collard greens. But yeah, they look pretty decent. And these are from the second set of collard greens that I planted in my main garden. So they're about the same size. I just kind of want to see how they would do in pots, since I've never grown these in pots. Got some beets. kind of late in the season. Still kind of experimenting, learning from these plants. So I might not get anything out of it, but you know, if you don't try, you don't necessarily learn. These are some green onions. Still doing well. These have been, wow, these have been out here for most of the year. I didn't plant seeds. I took some old green onions, and I just planted the bud of them, the root ball of it here, and more free green onions. Here's another tree that I bought the other day at Lowe's too. Apple tree. This is a Golden Delicious apple tree. It looks good. It has a few leaves on it, not a bunch, but you know, this time of year I don't expect to have many or any leaves on the tree. No big deal. And I'm keeping these in the greenhouse to protect them from the doggies. They have a reputation of destroying my fruit trees. Last year, and you may have heard this story before, so bear with me, I had a Honeycrisp apple tree planted in the ground in the backyard. I came out one day and all was up to about here. Half the tree was gone. Same with this tree here. I had another one, the Asian pear tree, and about half of it was gone. The top half was gone. So I'm blaming Bear. Could have been Prince, but he's kind of out of that stage. So this is where I had to take my this is where I had to take my fruit trees. Here's my brand new key lime tree. Had to protect that from the frost, and of course my Meyer lemon trees. This one I ordered online. This one I got at Lowe's. And I got these two earlier this year in the summer. And they look like they're in competition because this one here was only about this big, about 4 inches big. This one here has probably grown about 5 or 6 inches, but the other one seems like it's catching up on it. Might need to do a complete comparison video on those two, because one was bought online and one was bought local. I like to buy local, but the online one might just turn out to be just as good. So over here I have thornless blackberries, Navajo. Got these guys for $7 each at Lowe's the other day. Cheap as can be. This here is I believe this is my mulberry bush I got at Lowe's too. No, this is blueberry bush. And here, I've forgotten I had this guy here, raspberry bush. And this here should be my mulberry bush. Yeah, still has some leaves on it. And this here is supposed to be a lemon tree. Someone gave me this. It's a little bitty guy, but I'm gonna see how it turns out. It's supposed to give out some pretty small lemons, but they're very tart. So we'll see how they do. But I'm just happy that I brought them into the garage, because I'm sure that I would have lost, at the very least, my Meyer lemon trees and probably the lime tree. They aren't, at this stage, I don't think they're that cold hardy. You know, they can last down to 30 degrees, but I'm not taking any chances right now. I need them to get really big and more established before I put them in the yard. Of course, I may never put them in the yard. I might just keep them in the greenhouse. We'll see. I got space for it. I just got to keep the dogs away from it. But I'm not going to blame everything on them. So next, check out my side garden. Well, I mentioned the lack of weed pressure. Over here there is a little more weed pressure, but I'm going to take my little hoe and get rid of these. And out here, I just have mustard greens. Second year in a row, I wasn't able to really find any in the stores. So these guys here are all from seed. They aren't big because they got started late. Look like something ate a leaf off here. So it's only about 6 out. Is it 6? 4, 5, 6. It's about 12 of them. But yeah, I did actually grow these from seed. I didn't take great care of them, but I'm glad they're coming along. They do well in the fall, winter, so I should be fine. And these should turn out to be some very big leaves. And this is something else I'm going to continue to fertilizer with fish emulsion or fish fertilizer to keep it going. So hey, that's my fall winter garden. Hope you enjoyed it. Check back with me. Please like and subscribe so we can follow these gardening adventures. Take care.